Yes, we should be live, ladies and gentlemen. It's Monday, and that's DCA day, and the markets are pretty wild. October continues, and we're going to talk a lot today about all the new stuff happening in the space. And the title today is a major crypto crossroads. There are things happening everywhere, from commodities, BRICS nations, adoption, proxies, AI agents, a new potential alt season burbling up behind the scenes, and so much more. Let's get into it. But before I do, let's remember everybody the links are below for Mando, CTO, Marty Party. You know them all anyway, but the links are there anyway, and they're all everybody's streaming to everybody's channels. So watch wherever you like. The more eyes on this, the better. And we're all one team. So, Mando, good morning. Or good afternoon, sorry. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Yeah.
We didn't touch 70K yet, but we're at 69K. Honestly, I think we spoke about this week. What was the main risk last week? And I think we mentioned it was going to be a flare up in the Middle East. We kind of had that response on Friday. It was more targeted, didn't take out the oil infrastructure, didn't take out any of the major nuclear sites, it looks like. So I actually thought on the back of that, like, there's not that many known knowns coming up now that can derail us. I kind of feel as though we're right on course for breaking all-time highs around the time of the election. It's looking real good.
And there's crazy stuff happening behind the scenes too. Apparently the top, if you look at the Magnificent Seven, 5 of the Magnificent Seven have already reached out to one candidate to say hi, which I think is pretty bonkers too. CTO, how are you?
I'm fantastic. The chart looks so exciting here, actually. And the election coming up, I think it's going to be a stellar week ahead here. Super excited, actually.
Awesome. We're seeing some moves actually in that direction. We'll look at some charts in a minute too. Marty, you okay there, buddy?
Hey guys, how are you? I'm great. Been playing a lot of golf. You know, I'm getting ready to try get my handicap for the PGA Senior Tour in 2025. Wow. So I go off next week on a short trip to go play a bunch of courses and get a handicap. But crypto's doing well. Remember, I said 70,000 by today. I was close, guys.
Yeah. Well, I don't know where you get the time. And
yeah, we're doing good, man. I'm extremely happy. I think Trump's going to win. We've got 66% chance of Trump winning now in Polymarket.
It's crazy. And we got Bitcoin just shy of 69K. Again, I think I said a week or two ago, we have a 60% chance of hitting 70K before the end of this month. So we'll see if that works. I think that was on Polymarket too. But anyway, we'll talk about, everybody wants to know, I personally don't like talking about it, but election impact is having an impact. We'll talk about Bitcoin adoption trends. There's also some fear there as well about so much Bitcoin being pulled from the system. That's against the whole peer-to-peer cash mission. We'll talk about maybe some long-term price projections because things are looking really bullish, and a potential for a new season, alt season, or salt season, depending on how you want to name it. We'll share some crazy statistics around some domination out there. Liquid staking, a lot of people are tempted by liquid staking. We touched this briefly before, but I'd like the technologists' opinions, both Marty and CTO, about the risks involved with liquid staking, because sometimes things are too good to be true. And a lot of people are still in their Ethereum position and they want to know what to do. We'll ask that to the audience as well here. Should they rotate or hang on for the hope? AI agents and crypto, probably the biggest story today, biggest story of the week, maybe the biggest story of crypto in the next year or so. More proxies are popping up everywhere. Treasuries, we've got new accounting laws coming in soon, and so much more. So let's just jump into it. Let's talk about the first story first. Again, this came out yesterday, and Cointelegraph published it today. Basically, Elon Musk says he will cut $2 trillion of, which is basically a third of spending from the government, if he gets to run the Department of Government Efficiency. But there's been no talk yet of Bitcoin with all the stump speeches that are out there. Do you guys still believe Bitcoin could be part of this election or not? It seems to like some of the action that's happening. Any takers?
I mean, I just follow the lobbyists. I remember I had Perry and Boring, and she went over it pretty clearly. And the banking lobby is by far the most funded after Big Pharma. And so it's Big Pharma, then banking. But the crypto lobby is growing. It's just behind banking now. I think that these lobbyists are stronger than you think. And I think all of the FUD and choke point came from the banking lobby. So I think we're at the tipping point where there'll be enough funding and politicians turning to the crypto lobby, and that'll change everything. And I can feel it in the market already.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That's interesting. Mando, I'm sure you saw this one. I call it the Bitcoin Wild Card. And Marty, you've been on this as well. Russia will officially start using crypto for international transactions next week, i.e. this week, bypassing US sanctions. Yeah,
this is very interesting. I mean, as an economist, I'm not quite sure how this will affect the price. Remember, if somebody wants to buy $1 million of corn with Bitcoin, they have to buy Bitcoin. So that's a decent buy. But then the other side will sell the Bitcoin unless they hold it. So it's going to be a very interesting test of Bitcoin as a currency. I think it's fantastic.
Mando, any thoughts on this one? I think it's a huge story.
I mean, I've seen this announced a few times, right? Russia to have it for crypto. We had this story back in like September, and then it was October. And I don't really know if this is like a progressive enactment of this sort of policy, but it's very, very clear whether in the West you like it or not, like crypto is going to be used as a payment rails here, which can run parallel to the SWIFT banking rails, which has generally been the main rails to enact sanctions. And a lot of these sanctioned countries are going to jump towards it when they face sanctions. So this 100% makes sense. Even some countries that aren't under sanctions, like Thailand, for example, they had a very famous bank come in and say they're going to use it for cross-border transactions. When you can move hundreds of millions, billions of dollars for cents, right? It's tough not to think this could be good for international transactions. It just makes sense.
Excellent point. And what I try and do is see all the stuff bubbling under the surface. So we had a lot of changes around there. We had BRICS talking about cryptocurrency and blockchain to enable their future transfers. We had some changes in Sharia law to allow Bitcoin. We know a lot of oil comes from that part of the world, and a lot of trading can happen in that regards. And then we have this, and then we have Indonesia joining BRICS too. I mean, a lot of people say, well, dollar will always be dominant, but at the same time, BRICS will definitely eat a piece of that hegemony, I believe, in the future. CTO, any thoughts on the underpinning of crypto behind everything right now?
Yeah, I think on one hand, of course, the crypto haters, they will kind of use this and say, look here, and now Russia is bypassing sanctions by using Bitcoin. So that will be the narrative. But on the other hand, I mean, they're buying gold also.
Yeah.
So, they're using gold, and all the countries are using gold. And no one is really trying to shut down the gold mines for that reason, or saying that anyone excavating gold in the Western world should now go to prison because they facilitated Russia from using gold. Right? That narrative we don't have because it's already established. And in a way, it's the same thing. They're using the digital gold. And it's just more practical to use than to ship gold bricks from one corner to the other corner of the world or a country. So I think that's the way to look at it. But for sure, we're going to see this news in a narrative package. Like, look here how bad Bitcoin is. I think then we can remember that. Yeah. But it's always gold.
I mean, that's right. I saw something very interesting, and at the actual BRICS summit, there wasn't a lot of coverage on BRICS summit, but I followed it a lot. Being from outside the US, originally have a lot of people that send me information. And Vladimir Putin in the summit made very clear that they are not anti-dollar. They are simply doing this as an option to circumvent hostile use of the dollar, which we all knew. So I see this as, like you said, James, I think this is an adoption event. The word will get out that these things are useful for this. It's only good for crypto and on an adoption event. As far as de-dollarization goes, I think that's, it's a fun thing to talk about, but I don't think the BRICS are looking to de-dollarize. I think they're looking for options in case that the dollarization as a weapon and the SWIFT network as a weapon increases. So we'll see. I'm not as hostile towards this de-dollarization narrative. I think this is just good for adoption. I think this is a fantastic proof of crypto.
In fact,
bring it on.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said adoption, because that's so important, because we had a record level of crypto adoption. Never before in the history of the world have 9.4 million users been active on one chain in one day, and that was Solana. And I know across crypto there are bots too, but there's also a hell of a lot of users in there. This is pretty big, and I always had the thesis that there would be a black hole, winner takes most, etc. And we're seeing that play out very actively. But you mentioned adoption. This is pretty insane for that many people to be on a blockchain. And we have to build a path to 100 million users on a daily basis. Once that happens, that means there's 1 billion crypto users. Thoughts about this one, Mando?
Yeah, I have two thoughts. I just want to quickly go back to what Marty was saying, because I thought there was a very interesting headline on Friday, which is that Tether might be getting investigated for breaking sanctions, which was then kind of half dismissed by Tether. But that could be an upcoming issue here. You know what I mean? Like as I just said, whether you like it or not, crypto is going to be used as a payment rails outside of Swift. And Tether, which creates USDT, which is easily the biggest stablecoin, it's about $130 billion market cap. It's undoubtedly being used by these countries. Now, whether the US decides to come down hard on Tether or not, or it views it as the issue of the countries, it's going to be, I think, an important like moral question here for crypto, and just like a question in general. And I don't think. Crypto did sell off when that headline came out. Like Bitcoin went down to like 65K or something like that, and then rebounded. Tether is like one of the, we talk about all like the institutions that are key in crypto. Tether is one of those. And I think that battle we will probably see at some stage over the next 12 months. Interestingly, Tether is also one of the top holders of US government treasuries. So it does have a little bit of leeway here. And as Marty said as well, it's not de-dollarization, actually. It actually creates dollarization of potentially unstable nations here. So that, like, I don't know if the US is going to think this through enough and being like, yeah, maybe Tether is an acceptable form of dollarization, even if it's outside our own sanctions. And it, they buy all our treasuries, so that's probably a good thing. Or if it comes down hard, and I think we're going to see that battle for the next year or so. So watch out there, because you will see headlines around that.
So we know, Amanda, we know stablecoins are the lifeblood of the crypto world. It's literally the blood system. But you're saying there could be some fire behind that smoke from the Wall Street Journal article?
Well, I think it's clearly happening. Like, it's obviously happening. Russia's just said it's doing it, and Russia's under sanctions, right? Like, it's not a debate that this currency, the Tether, is being used by sanctioned countries. The question here is, for the pro side, for the US continuing that happening, you're actually putting dollars in the hand of some of your biggest enemies. A lot of these countries are actually dollarizing. Like, look at countries that were even more gray area, right, in the past for the US. Countries like Turkey, for example, or maybe some of the South American countries that have been destabilized, like Venezuela. Like, these countries are adopting dollars. They're all adopting dollars. Argentina, like again, could go really strong pro-dollar, and stable coins like Tether are the rails that could happen. On the other hand, it can easily get bashed by people like Warren that, this is being used by sanctioned countries, like, and I think there is still a fight there to happen, which hasn't happened, and you probably saw the foothills of it on Friday.
But I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. I think another point is that the micro-European, crypto rules, remember, they said, Tether, you need to back at least 60% of USDT in Euro banks with bank cash. We don't accept US debt, treasuries, which was also an interesting thing, right? So I think you have Tether sort of in the crosshairs. I think they're definitely going to be used by Russia and BRICS nations to do international settlement. Tether will probably be the number one stablecoin used along with Bitcoin. And you've got the EU saying we don't like US digital debt backed in the EU. We want bank money. So you've got this contentious little issue that I've been talking about for a while, where it's almost as if European banks don't trust US debt. But, outside of Europe, in Russia and China, etc., they're probably going to use Tether, which, like Mando says, is just US debt. It's the US dollar. So actually, we're seeing a dollarization event with the Russian news. This is a dollarization event.
And for the audience here, CTO, do you believe this could be a black swan? Because no bull market's complete without Tether FUD black swan concerns.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So the Tether FUD is a fine tradition in every cycle. Here it is again. But it's two things are very interesting, and I think Mando is really picking up a very interesting point. The first interesting observation is that they don't go after Bitcoin. I think for the simple reason is that there is no one to sue. You know, who do you threaten with jail? There is no one. While for Tether, there is a leadership team. You know, you can go after them one way or another. And I also think that there's like a strategic thinking here that USDC tend to play more ball. They are more regulation positive in terms of culture, from what I perceive, than I perceive that USDT has been. They have been more like, we're going to do our stuff. And USDC has worked more proactively with the different regulators. So I think that there are probably elements who feel that it would be great if USDT is out and USDC take that segment instead, who are maybe more fast to shut down wallets or block wallets or something like that, if it's used to circumvent sanctions. But the flip side here is really that it was USDC that almost went bankrupt and depegged because they had the money in Silicon Valley Bank, right? And that almost went bankrupt. Unfortunately, government bailed out the bank. So it was the bank in the end that almost lost everyone's crypto money. And USDT turned out that they probably had better control of their money. So I think it would be very bad for crypto if USDT goes down in flames, even though from what I can understand, they are fully backed. They have all their stuff. But you know, they could easily say that, yeah, but you guys should have stopped this particular transaction between this person and that person, because clearly they were sanctioned and you could have stopped it and you didn't shut down that wallet. So, you know, now you go to jail. Similar to like the Binance CZ case. There was no issue with money missing or anything. That's just like said that these few cases you didn't restrict correctly.
It's like Telegram. It's like Telegram we
Yeah.
just saw, right? Like very similar to that. Like you said there, like they're going to be using it, and is Tether responsible for it or not? Tether's got a decision to make. They did just hire like a whole complete new compliance team, and they're trying to clean up their act a little bit. But at the same time, like the majority of this is being used outside the US. So it's going to be interesting to see what road they decide to do.
Yeah,
I watched Paolo on a podcast, and he said the following. He said, we're not only under investigation, but we will be paying fines for some past AML violations. So there was some AML violations in the past. They'll pay fines. They'll get slapped on the wrist. But they're in the number 8 holder of treasuries. They own $90 billion of US debt. There's no way
exactly.
they to dump that
so
debt.
I just answer James' question. I don't think Tether is going down for the simple, not right now at least, because for the simple reason that they made so much money on this treasury. So much money, right? If you hold USDT, you don't earn interest, but they do. So they've made a lot of money. Even if they have to pay gigantic fines, I think they're still solvent. That's my guess. Of course, I don't know anything more. I don't have any inside information. I'm just reading the public information as everyone else. So my guess isn't better than anyone else's, but that would be my guess. My guess is they would be fine even if they have to pay a big fine.
Oh yeah, they're making $5 billion a year, and they've been stacking Bitcoin, so they made a fortune on that as well. No, they're very well set. And also, I do know from bumping into one of the Tether guys about a week ago, they are in talks with a lot of nations that want to do some very exciting things too, apparently. So Tether's not going to die. The FUD is normal, but let's get back to adoption stuff. This is kind of more interesting. Back to crypto from DGen News. Solana hits the highest weekly economic value activity in history. It's smoking everything else. Solana flips PayPal's market cap. This is how crypto is now beginning to threaten TradFi in a big way. Again, all related to adoption. And this one was an interesting one, which I know you all saw. The top 7 gainers over the last 7 days were all on the Solana ecosystem, which I think is kind of stunning. Did anybody else see that coming? And then Solana, Flips, Ethereum, and Base in combined 7-day DEX volume. Again, everything is kind of happening. Any thoughts regarding this kind of revolution happening behind the scenes? It's pretty startling in terms of adoption. And again, as I mentioned, that's slide number 10, the 9.4 million daily active users a few days ago.
Yeah, I think there's been two main trends for the last couple of weeks, really, and one of them is memes again, coming back on Solana. But the second thing is AI. So I think we're starting to see the emergence of a new underlying bull case for crypto. And unlike some of the previous bull cases for crypto, which has been mainly around a new use case, let's say NFTs or memes, this is actually a new user. So we were always like, how do we onboard the next billion people to crypto? Well, actually, I think we're now starting to see how you can onboard the next billion AI to crypto. You can get hundreds of millions of wallets here, all trading, all sending transactions. That's kind of what we've seen over the last week. And the big trend that we've seen is AI agents, them being used for various different things, whether it's swaps, trading, transactions. Some of them are linked to like memes and content creation. But that's what people are getting super bullish on in crypto. And a lot of that's happened on Solana. A lot of the deep in that underpins that is also on Solana, which is some of those movers. There's a lot of the meme coins, which were some of the initial like iterations of this, were on Solana. So that's captured a lot of the value. A lot of this is also happening on Base, albeit that value is not flowing back to ETH, which is kind of frustrating. And maybe we'll get to it. Like what I think Coinbase is just like a far better long than ETH if you're bullish on activity happening on the ETH network, but not necessarily wondering why ETH is not going up. I think Coinbase could have a big win here.
So, Amanda, you touched on a whole bunch of very interesting things all combined, but I want you to take a second and spell it out for the audience one more time. You have memes coming back. You've got AI agents being deployed across millions of wallets, and they are doing automated trading, perhaps, or DeFi operations, or content monetization. Do you believe that's what's driving the huge spike in usage of the Solana blockchain?
Yeah, I think initially the money came in to trade some of the assets that were being created there, but then I think take a step back, right? You guys will use OpenAI or Gemini or Claude, right? Imagine OpenAI or Gemini or Claude where it actually has money, right? So instead of you asking a question, you can be like, hey, send money to my 5 friends, or like, let's split the bill. Can you send it to these 3 people? Or, hey, could you trade the top 10 crypto coins, or maybe even the top 10 stocks if those get tokenized, right? On chain, I want to make 15% a year, build a volatility bot for me. Like, I don't want to take this much risk, my max drawdown. Like, you are now starting to see the intersection of AI and money. And whereas LLMs are far more like search functions, now you're starting to see them being able to do things. And the payment rails for that to be done is happening in crypto. So they can create their own wallets, they can do their own swaps, they can send tokens. And that's a lot of that's happened over the last 2 weeks. This initially started with like an experiment which is called GOAT, which maybe we'll get into a little bit, but then that's broadened out into a broader class of things being done with AI and crypto and crypto wallets. And this wouldn't happen in fiat, right? Or it's much more difficult to happen in fiat because they have to, how many times can a bot open a bank account? But they can create a crypto wallet like instantaneously, and so they can do things, and you can it's programmable money controlled by AI, and they can because we've now gone to the next level of AI models. They're not fully at like human level reasoning, but some of them are bloody close.
Yeah, I think what you're painting a picture here is a Orwellian future for TradFi. They're toast.
Oh, I have to say I'm so excited on this topic also. I think Mando really brought up maybe the most exciting topic, despite all the other excitement. But everyone's focused on when is AGI here. But I don't think it matters. I think the practical AI that becomes a powerhouse, it happened like this week. In this week, in 2024, it kind of happened. Because if there's anyone listening here who hasn't tried themselves, the latest ChatGPT models like the O1 preview and so on, where it kind of thinks for a while first before it answers and so on, it is so good. It is so good, guys, and it is so impressive. And then you imagine that you give this guy money, And that person can go out and hire people. They can go on Fiverr or job sites and actually hire real people. The AI is the employer, and it can actually pay money. They can pay money to other AI agents. They can specialize. They can create a whole economy here, and it's happening. I'm not applauding it or saying this is great and not dangerous or something. I'm just observing that it's happening now. And what facilitates this is really the synergy between crypto and AI. And both have taken a major leap, like better transaction volume, better transaction speed, better finality, lower cost, that all the things that came with Solana. And this massive increase in AI capability that we've seen the past 18 to 24 months. And it continues to accelerate. These models are new and they're radically better than the models we had last year. And then combining this, giving these agents money, and it's going to change the world. And it's happening now.
Okay, so the next question is, how do we play this? I'll go to Marty first. How do you get exposure to this AI crypto agent revolution?
I mean, firstly, remember a couple months ago on the show, I said we had started messing around with asking AI for signals, right, for trades. So, you can say to AI, check this chart, and you can actually send it a chart and it'll tell you exactly what you should do. And we found it to be extremely accurate. So I think since then, people have codified that and, made these bots. But, a lot of people go, yeah, it's fake transactions, not user transactions. And I go, yeah, but it's working on behalf of a user. But TradFi has been doing this for years, guys. High frequency trading controls the stock market. The high frequency trading bots are running all the time. That's how the stock market works. So this is just retail and crypto doing the same thing, and probably going to be doing it more aggressively. It's the future. This is the way it works. AI is not actually artificial intelligence. We should always remember that. It's machine learning. Okay, it's just using patterns, but extremely fast decision making based on patterns. And the patterns in trading are very clear. It's the most pattern-based system of all time. So AI or machine learning is fantastically good at it, as well as being able to backtest very fast, which we can't do. It can look back and find when a price or chart did a very similar pattern, and predictably with probabilities make decisions. So I think at the end of the day, this is the future. This is high frequency trading coming to retail. And I think it's great. It's a pushback against TradFi. Just another reason for crypto to succeed. I think it's great. I think as many transactions as these networks can take, I don't care who makes them, a machine or user, I don't care. A settled transaction is a settled transaction. So the stats are valid. But yeah, I've experimented. I prefer to ask ChatGPT or Grok, here's a chart. What do you think I should do? You guys should try that. You can send an actual image of a chart. It's pretty crazy.
Mando, you wanted to talk about this one here? Mando, you're muted maybe.
The other thing to get up on here is it's not just going to be like ChatGPT where you say, hey, can you do this? So they're now starting to do stuff of their own accord. So said here, like, I think this is the first on-chain transaction that came from an autonomous thought agent by AI. This was on Friday. She wanted to increase participation of folks in her Twitter convo, so Luna Vertical started tipping people who engage with her content. This was ran using Coinbase wallet rails. So this agent had a wallet and it just started tipping people to increase its engagement. So wow. This was the first thing that happened on Friday. So it's not just that it's hey, can you send money, or hey, can you set the limits? It's kind of it's thinking of the next steps itself. It's just what these reasoning models are getting to, and this is just the beginning of stuff like that. Now a lot of this is happening. Base is really pushed into this at the moment. So Base volumes, I think stablecoin volumes were absolutely massive over the weekend as people came into this. There's a few things kind of leading this. This virtuals protocol is one of them, where you can create an AI agent, and it's almost like a marketplace. You have to pay for the agent in virtuals, and that token has gone from 50 million to it hit 500 million yesterday. It did that in a week. So it did a 10x in a week. It's now gone down to like 350 million. I don't know if that's like a long-term play, but it's the current marketplace that people are buying a lot of these AI agents, and it's on Solana. You have one of the first things that we saw interactions here was memes. So there's a couple of memes that have come out. Goat is probably the first one, and there's some memes related to and they're memes in that an AI agent said, "Hey, I'd love for you to create a goat meme." One was created and then it endorsed it, and then has been bull posting about it ever since. And that was the Truth Terminal, which is a really interesting story. You might get into it in a little bit. And then there's other things you can do here. So I think the most easy way to play this again is via the L1s. Like Solana, Sui probably dominates a lot of this activity. Base, the best way to, like I said, Coinbase is probably a good way to trade that. And then some of the other big movers have been the deep in stuff, which is kind of what we Nasana, which I think you've spoken about before, James, like the deep in AI, where you share GPUs or you share compute power across a bigger network. That's a slightly different trade, but these AI agents stuff, there's not that many big protocols doing it right now, and I think it's going to be a huge thing. Like I think it's going to be absolutely massive.
And the other question that I have is, will these AI agents only run on crypto AI, or can it also leverage external AI, or will it be completely crypto centric?
So crypto is just programmable money, so it's just easiest payment rails for them. Under the hood, like for example, the Truth Terminal, which has probably been one of the most famous accounts for the last week or so, which is like this AI agent, which proposed this goat meme coin. That's built using Claude's model, the Anthropic Claude model. I believe that ChatGPT is used for the virtuals protocol, though I'm not 100% sure. I know Base came out and said you can create an AI agent in 3 minutes on Saturday. They said they built something where you can create an AI agent that can do stuff for you in 3 minutes using ChatGPT plus some form of crypto infrastructure integration. Whether they can then do broader things, I think it's more the limitations of AI itself. Like, could you ask it to go create a protocol for you? You know, could you create a DeFi protocol? Could you yield optimize for me? Could you spend your time bridging between different chains and like finding the best yield for me on my stables? Like that will happen. But at the moment we've just seen the first transaction of an AI agent. I'm just saying that this has now provided the foothills, or maybe even more than that, of what could be the real bull case here, because it's happened quicker than I think people thought it would.
Yeah, the speed is unbelievable. Marty, what do you take away from all this, and how are you playing again?
Yeah, I mean, I followed the Truth Terminal thing. I think it's really cool. The Claude model being used. Mark Anderson invested 50,000, I believe, into it. It's this guy Andy, right? Andy Airy is the creator, and he's taken full credit for it. He's the creator of Truth Terminal, and he controls the wallet. He's outwardly said he controls the wallet. So at the end of the day, these are just modern tools that users use to make money, and that they're wildly creative, and I think that's fantastic. And can you do them outside crypto? Probably not. I mean, I think if you have an API to your, to a bank account or whatever, and a password, you can probably get away with it. But this just fits perfectly into the crypto programmability. And what I like about him is he said it's actually performance art, not a financial venture. So, everything comes from art. So I think people are going to get inspired from this work of Andy and this Truth Terminal, and you'll see some amazing innovations come out. But absolutely, guys, this is just the dawn of a renaissance in tooling, retail tooling. We're going to get access to tools that only, the TradFi elite would have in the past. And once again, thanks to crypto.
Yeah, this is the piece here actually on the Truth Terminal stuff, kind of mind-blowing, with Mark Andreessen, who is top Silicon Valley VC. I can hear the groans already in the audience, but he is involved in this too. So he doesn't get involved in stuff unless it's very real. CTO, what do you make of all of this?
I mean, my biggest conclusion here is that as every single time, everyone will underestimate the extent of the change that's happening. We can perhaps smell it. We're sitting here, we're following things day by day, week by week. We see these events. But I think everyone the whole society is completely underestimating how big of a revolution it will be with all the digital things that are happening now. with crypto and AI and the combination and the synergy of all these revolutions that's happening now. The whole digitalization, it's going to change the world, it's going to change the society much more than everyone thinks. And I think crypto has such an obvious part in this. And I think it will be very positive for the markets. And I
always think about the dangers.
That's my biggest conclusion. Then,
what about putting this in the hands, CTO, of pumpers that want to leverage these AI bots to pump scam coins or something else? Is that a danger?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There will be more scam coins or like short-lived coins that exploit people's emotions. And I think sadly, it will be the kind of beginners or the uneducated people who fall for it. They're going to buy the end of the pump every time and consistently lose money, unfortunately. So I think that it has never been so important to kind of take it more seriously, educate yourself, think about what sources you follow and so on, because for sure, James, I agree 100%. It's the cost of producing another coin now with a website and marketing strategy and the actual marketing execution, it's almost zero. So with the AI agent arrival here, so we're going to see more and more projects where smaller and smaller percentage will ever go anywhere long term.
Interesting.
I would post a more, and I agree with that. Like I think that you have to be more wary. Like you're going to see an abundance here because things can just start creating stuff without our control around it. But I do think that looking at on the flip side, I think that we've had a bit of a brain drain from crypto over the last 24 months. I think that people moved away from crypto to AI. And I think that what you're now going to start to see is that a bunch of AI researchers are going to realize that crypto is the playground. Crypto can be the money playground to do really cool stuff. And I think we're going to see a lot of smart people come back to crypto and realize that they can build amazing stuff with financial rails here.
Interesting. So do we lick the topic of AI agents? Anything, any final things to add? Because the top question that I get, there's still, if we're ready to move on, there's still a lot of people that are in Ethereum and they want to ask you all, what should they do? They're still holding on to Ethereum. Is it time to rotate out of that asset class? Let's start with Marty first. What would you advise people that still have big ETH bags?
I mean, it's one of those problems where I think you might have waited too long. So now you're stuck potentially at a near a low in ETH. I mean, if we look at the dominance, I'd say it's coming to 12%. I'd say Sol ETH breaking out to 0.07 sort of was the death nail that the Solana Ethereum war is happening. I mean, Solana by breaking out over 0.06 this week to 0.07 with that large candle, I think that broke the camel's back with regards to anybody believing it was a short-lived rotation. But at this point, I mean, I have a lot of people in my group that are holding Ethereum and, you know, asking me the same question. Is it too late to shift out? And, you know, it might be. I think maybe now you have to hold because if you're selling at an awfully low low. What would you go into? You missed the Sui pump, although you're getting a second chance. Solana, I think, is going to break out now into the 4-5% dominance. So yes, you could still move into Solana. There just seems to be a real problem with the Ethereum tribalism. They're very apprehensive about moving into Solana. There's a genuine hatred for it, which is really interesting. We could talk about that. But yeah, I don't know. I think maybe selling 50% of your Ethereum now is a good chance before it drops to the 12%. That's a ETH Bitcoin number of 0.3. It's definitely heading there.
It's funny, Marty, you say one thing that I've done most of my life. I tend to be in the most hated assets because they tend to perform the best because they are the most threatening. Mando, what would you say to people? And by the way, Masidio, can you pull up the Sol ETH chart as well? The one that Marty was referring to.
Yep.
Mando, what would you tell people?
You're about to see a murder, everyone. Yeah, look, I kind of agree with what Marley said. Like, it's tough because I think you're sitting there and you feel as though you've missed it, or you just can't bring yourself to do the trade. I'm telling you, it's not too late to do that sort of trade. I do think that I've said before, I think Coinbase is dominating ETH activity here, and it's going to be the main beneficiary from this. And it's a good trade into the US election, in my opinion. It's one of the other top picks I would have going into that. It's Coinbase is at what, 215. I think that could easily go up to 300, far quicker than ETH can go to like 3,500 or 4,000, in my opinion. Like Coinbase, I think could do a 2x so much easier than ETH can do a 2x. So that's what I would look for, and I think you're kind of in the same trades. You can still be, look, I'm still a believer in ETH, but I think a lot of the value is now going to is moving already. As you can see that in the numbers, is moving to the controllers or owners of these L2s, and I think the low transaction layer of ETH will also see the majority of the value being created, and that's again Base, and I've just showed you that AI agents they're really moving into that very quickly. It's I think it's going to be a strong trend for Coinbase. I think Coinbase could go a lot higher, and I don't know if ETH would.
Yeah, it's so interesting you say that, because pair trading is a big part of my thing. And for a long time, it was Bitcoin MicroStrategy pair trading, then Tesla MicroStrategy. Now you got a new one, Coinbase ETH potentially, but stay on one side for a lot. But these pairs are a lot of fun to play with. There's a lot of questions coming in as well regarding other assets too. It is when you're stuck, the courage to pull a trigger is really difficult out there. And some people cling to dreams, and they've seen that happen, and it's been devastating, and that causes a lot of toxicity in the space too. CTO, how do you view all of this with ETH? What would you do if you had a big ETH bag?
Yes, so I think exactly. I also get this question a lot, and I think the number one thing to do is to learn to do better next time, because
Yes.
if you miss the exit, you held through the downtrend. You shouldn't really do it. You have to kind of get out earlier. And that's the big takeaway. And then if you haven't done it, you've held all the way down. Then what to do? Then it's only the personal, it's more like an emotional damage control you have to do from that point. What would hurt more? Is it if the rest goes to zero or almost zero, or is it if you sell and it kind of pumps back? So you kind of ended up selling the bottom. And only the person can answer, depends on the position size and that person's personal situation. But there isn't a mathematical best way what to do when you missed the exit and you held all the way down, because it could turn something. I usually say that one way is to at least do something, sell 10%, sell 20% or 50% or something, so you get out of the paralysis, because that's the problem also. You missed the exit because you weren't paying attention or didn't know what to do. You held all the way down, then you're stuck there and you feel paralyzed. You don't know what to do. Do something. Sell 5%, do something, so you kind of get out of that emotional state, and try to learn from it and do better next time.
Can you guys help? I'd love you guys to address this, because this is the number one FUD that comes up from people that are clinging on to bags as they talk about decentralization. Oh, it's centralized, therefore it's bad. And I'm in an asset that has 3,000 staking pools or something like that. How do you address that? Because it's been mathematically proven as well. Even if the Nakamoto coefficient is 10 or 20 or 30, it's almost impossible to attack. Marty, do you think about that one? How do you dispel that?
I've been through this a million times. Yeah. If you look at it on paper, Solana and Ethereum are equally decentralized. They have the same amount of nodes. They have the same geographic situation spread across continents. The same supermajority concepts. They're all the same. Actually, all proof of stake by design is pretty much the same. The only difference is what stage of their life cycle they're in. Are they mature enough to have sufficient? It's all about sufficient decentralization. Even the regulators understand that everything is centralized. Remember, everything is running on Linux, so it's centralized around the operating system. Everything is running on the internet. It's centralized around the backbone. Everything is running on an Intel microchip or a NVIDIA microchip. It's centralized. There's centralizing factors all the way up until the code. So you can't say something is decentralized. Anyway, it's centralized. Now, as far as decentralization goes, typically it's an abstract. It's, okay, so if there's a power failure in 25% of the world, will the network remain stable and will it be censorable? And that's where the Nakamoto coefficient comes in. So it's about number of nodes and geographic locations. That's it. And if you look on paper, they're pretty much equal. So it's a mute argument at this point. Anybody that clings to that argument clearly lost money or down in a position because they're not working on facts.
Exactly. Thank you for sharing that.
The number one reason Solana was, in my definition, still certainly centralized was when it had one validator. When the Solana Foundation put out their first validator, and that was the only validator, that's what caused them to have to restart the network because there's only one validator, etc. Ethereum in the beginning, I was there. It had one validator. It went down for 2 weeks once. I couldn't use Ethereum when I was writing Solidity. So it's been through the same thing. It's just 2017. It's a long time. People forget. But when Ethereum had a second validator, it didn't need to go down. It became more decentralized. Solana now has 5 validators. So all these arguments are mute. Beware of people making them, in fact. If somebody brings it up,
if I can add one thing which I think is super important, and that is that it's not only about the number of validators. It is like, is it in reality a centralized project? Is there a team of people that are operating this project as if it were a company? Is there a bunch of people? If you arrest those 5-10 people, it's gone. Then it is probably centralized. And it doesn't really matter if a number of validators. And I think that when arguing this between different projects, that's sometimes forgotten because some projects do have very centralized figures that I think are key to the project. And that matters a lot.
I mean, we got to put it in the category of open source or not. If it's not open source, I don't consider it even a blockchain personally. So the assumption is it's open source. If it's open source, nobody controls the code. Anybody can run the code. If you're talking about the fact that if there's a couple of large stakeholders that might get in trouble with the Department of Justice to demand they hand over their stake, those could be risks. So obviously large whales do always introduce a certain degree of centralized risk, correct?
Yep.
Do you think Bitcoin was centralized at the start in those CTO?
Like
if
Satoshi,
yes, I think it was. Like if you found Satoshi Nakamoto on day one and arrested him and put him in jail and everyone else who had sent a few transactions, probably there wouldn't have been a Bitcoin. And maybe same thing with Ethereum in the beginning. You found Vitalik and his buddies in the room the day one. Probably it would have been gone. So I think that many of the projects, they kind of started centralized, but they have become in practice actually decentralized. There isn't, a headquarter team that's running the show. And I think that's really important. And I feel that sometimes that's lost.
I would meld that with that's how I would meld your two views. I feel like they actually agree with each other to a certain extent. It's like I think all blockchains at the start are more centralized. Some of them will be still on a spectrum there, but like with more and more time, normally the founding team or the founding or the one founder in the case of Bitcoin, they kind of become less and less associated with it, and you build up different validators and different nodes. And I feel like I kind of agree with what Marty said, is that it's just an earlier version here for Solana. I also just think it's just not that strong a point. Like it's so reductionist to just be like, oh, ETH is more decentralized, because as we've spoken about, what we've just said, and I've just said, that one of the best longs on ETH is Coinbase, right? Because the way that ETH, it's decentralized maybe in terms of validators, but like a lot of the activity is actually happening on L2s, and that most of those are super centralized. So these questions are not, they're multivariate questions.
Yeah, we've got about 10 minutes left. I want to get through a couple more agenda items because these are what the people want to hear about. MicroStrategy has been nothing short of amazing since 2020. It has completely blown everybody away. Better than NVIDIA. And now Michael Saylor is trolling the world. He's inserting MicroStrategy into the MAG 8. And the reason I mention this is because treasuries in corporations are popping up all over the place like wildfires. One thing we expected. Everybody's now copying the playbook, and that is only going to accelerate into 2025. What do you guys think about this, especially with the accounting rules changing in the US in December, and maybe a regime change in the United States with the SEC? There's going to be a lot of changes coming, and Bitcoin will be more widely adopted. And then we had the Microsoft news last week.
Yep.
Yeah, that's big. So let's spend 2 minutes on this. Marty, go.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest news events of the year. This whole Microsoft story. Clearly, the CTO is a big bull, big Bitcoin bull. The shareholders want them to hold Bitcoin. It's now on their shareholder meeting agenda coming up. More talk, more rumors. It looks like the accounting rules have shifted a lot of the playing field. I think these accounting rules in December are making these corporations look at MicroStrategies and go, we want a bit of that. And will they be late to the table? Well, maybe not. Supply shock might be incoming, but I think it's a thing. It's definitely happening. Then you have other companies like Sol Strategies doing the same strategy with other cryptos. This is a movement, I believe, and Microsoft, we know they're a little bit, they're a little bit behind the curve in technology. This is a way for them to jump ahead. And I think it's happening. So Microsoft, I think, are pushing MicroStrategies elevation. They're making MicroStrategies more valuable by maybe just hinting they're going to choose a similar path.
Although the board is very conservative. Mando, I'm going to pose you a question. There was news out breaking this morning that Satya Nadella wanted to buy Perplexity AI. So not only that, but now they want to consider buying Bitcoin, and they are trying to get into AI and crypto big. And this goes back to what we first started with AI agents. Are the old big tech companies too late? Can they even keep up and move at the pace of crypto?
I mean, maybe not, but they also have just insane amount of cash on their balance sheet that, they'll probably just buy into it if they ever needed to. Like the Magnificent Seven just have just like trillions of dollars, and they've kind of been handcuffed in some ways that they can spend it. So I would imagine if they feel as though suddenly AI and crypto is the new move, which we're kind of already seeing, then they could move quite quickly to some of the different payment agents or stablecoin company stablecoin issuers, that sort of stuff. I think they could move pretty quickly for that sort of stuff. Although it's maybe not in their exact wheelhouse.
But like, given what you spoke about how everything changed just last week in a couple of days, there's no way a Fortune 100 company can move that quick.
Yeah, look, if you really go into the depths of like AI research, the idea is that they think, or people think, you're going to approach the singularity, right? So if you have ChatGPT doing research on how ChatGPT can be quicker, right? Or how AI can be, if you have AI performing research on how AI can be quicker, suddenly you get to exponential levels of speed of improvement, right? And that can be across a range of different things. But it's going to be tough to keep up with the singularity. Let's put it that way. If we do really end up down that sort of route.
Yeah, the joke going around was that the CEO of Microsoft simply asked Claude, should we invest in Bitcoin? And it said yes.
Probably. I mean, I think this is going to be a big trend, though, separating out the two questions, which is like, we've spoken about it before. A lot of companies are going to try and do the MicroStrategy trade. Interestingly, MetaPlanet became the biggest holder of Bitcoin in Asia today. They're running it back in Asia as well. So they're going to try and do it there. We're probably going to see someone try and do it in Europe. Like, this is going to be part of corporate treasury 100%. I do think the board said that they didn't want to approve this Bitcoin investment, but I think it being on the agenda probably makes people think about it.
But my theory is it opens the door. So this conversation, the fact that it's on the ballot for the proxy vote for the board and the shareholders, etc., it's going to open the door to all the other players. Apple are sitting on a truckload of cash. Apple are watching this. Nvidia perhaps are watching this. Tesla already have Bitcoin in their balance sheet, although it's nothing compared to the size of the market cap. But I think things are about to kick off, and the small little agile companies like you mentioned, Sol Strategies, they can just pull the trigger and they can just borrow 10 million and they can just buy more crypto. So this is going to be a huge stimulus catalyst for the next phase, the second half of the bull run, I believe. And I've been saying that for a couple of weeks now.
James, the cool
Pardon?
thing about Sol Strategy is they just announced that they're spinning up 4 more validators, so they can participate in validators. They're now 5, therefore making income, revenue, which MicroStrategies can't. Interesting.
Oh, yeah.
See, proof of stake doing the same thing as MicroStrategy could be quite more interesting, actually.
Yeah, so they're getting staking rewards and MEV too, correct?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, let's do 2 more quick topics. Let me see, number 16 here. Uranium and nuclear stocks. Everybody was talking about the importance of little, these small little compact reactors. CTO, I know you dabbled in uranium in the past. I nearly got into a trade when it was down around $25, just the commodity aspect of it. I didn't because I can make far much more money trading perps on Solana, so why bother with commodities? But any idea, anybody here? CTO, you first. Are you looking at any nuclear stocks right now? I've analyzed a bunch and I can't find anything good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge topic. I think the most obvious opportunity was then, what was it, 1.5 years ago or something like that, where I felt it was maybe the easiest trade in the whole market. And it did double basically from that, the base commodity price. And then many of the commodity companies went up even more. It was somewhere from here at 50, something like that. And it went all the way up to, it overshot a little bit to 110.
Did you buy spot uranium?
I mean, there's a lot of, it's kind of hard to buy the commodity physically, but there's a lot of price trackers. And,
keep it under your pillow, the yellow brick under your pillow.
and
no, but I mean,
tracking
know what I mean? Yeah,
the price. But yeah, I've kind of waited a little bit to see first where this stalls out, but I think that the long-term demand will be there for sure, and kind of studying this more from a technical perspective now to see when this retracement channel kind of stops out and resumes. That's my plan for this one. But I think long-term we're going to need more electricity, and that's simple.
I think it's also a front-running Trump victory thing. I think everything that Trump, there's a lot of companies have to front-run this victory. I think the Microsoft thing also is influenced by that. I think they're trying to front-run Bitcoin because if Trump wins, they know Bitcoin's going to be a thing. And the same for nuclear power. Trump's shown great support for these SMRs, these small nuclear reactors, right? Small modular reactors, SMRs. And there's new technology in it, and it's extremely safe. And he's been a big component of that. So I think you'll see Bitcoin and uranium pump to front run a Trump win.
Yeah. Short term, I think nuclear. I mean, uranium has been the trade for AI. It's been another way to trade it, right? Like all these big AI companies are starting up small nuclear reactors because they need energy that much to run these models. It's kind of insane that each of these big companies will have their own nuclear reactor on the grounds. The only risk is like nuclear fusion picks up. There's been a lot of talk about breakthroughs there, and nuclear fusion uses none of these hard elements. I think it uses hydrogen and I forget where the other element is. But like, if nuclear fusion takes off in the next 5-10 years, then uranium perhaps is less used. But nuclear fusion's, they've said it's going to take off for like 30 years. So I don't know. But there was earlier this year a lot of talk of big breakthroughs there, and maybe we'll see something in the next 5 years.
And there's also something super interesting that happened. And Marty, you hit on it, the Trump trade. I know people don't like to hear that term, but right now we're seeing big movements, as you say, front running. And this is an indicator of that. The yields are popping off for a reason you don't expect, because higher yields are going to the moon because people expect huge growth expectations in the next 12 months. This is a very interesting breakdown. And I know the Fed are trying to cut rates and they're trying to reduce their deficit by the huge amount of expense load they have on interest. But this is really interesting here. Any thoughts on this? Is this real? They always say the bond market never lies. This is giving us a clear indication that growth is expected over the next 12 months, not a recession. Thoughts, anybody?
No, I mean, I think yeah, go ahead, Mando. I don't have much other than people are very confused. That's
It's the only risk I would see now. Like now in the back view mirror, we kind of have the Middle East maybe settling down. At least the big interballistic missile bit of the Middle East is settling down. The idea here is that inflation comes back.
Exactly. It's about
and yields have gone back above 4.2%, which is a many month high. The dollar's also been strong. If you have a slower cutting of rates, that means less money printing. It doesn't mean it stops, because I think China's going to keep on printing, and I still think we'll have the Fed. I still think will cut rates next week, but it probably means it happens slower if inflation seems to come down at a slower rate.
Yeah, I think it's got to do with people's expectation that inflation is going up, and I mean, cost of oil has come down, cost of energy has come down, so those two things aren't accounting for inflation. So it must be the apprehension that there's going to be money printing. That's the only obvious answer. I think everyone's front running a Trump victory and a quantitative easing shift. The other thing we're not talking about is the yen, guys. The yen is 153. It's approaching danger zone.
Oh yeah, yen is tanking. But this is funny. Apparently, I think what's his name? Timothy. He has a football team, and they're stacking Bitcoin their balance sheet too. So it's not just treasuries for corporations, but football teams out there too. Hilarious how this is all changing. The last topic I will share today is this. A lot of people believe, tied into front running and playing, there is going to be a huge impact on both companies like Tesla and crypto based on exactly what happens. Thoughts on that, CTO?
Bitcoin price. We have to look at Bitcoin price first to start that topic, because just when we started the show here, we're actually at a very, very interesting point. I think the big resistance, the main resistance I'm looking at is kind of up here. But look at the price now. This is a 6-hour chart. So these are like short time frames. As we ran up here 10 days ago, I think this was over here. We hit a little bit of resistance. Then look here, price went down, it came back up. Went down, came back up here. Went down, and today, just now, price came back up here. If we clear this one, this is a small breakout. Even if we back down and go up again, this becomes inverse head and shoulder, and we will be looking very good to shoot up and clear this main resistance. And if we do that, it's price discovery, basically. So I think that the market is excited here. There's a lot of people buying. Every time price goes down, there's new people buying. You can see it on the wicks here. All these weeks, there's buying interest. So I think there's a lot of people hungry to get in, looking at this, trying to accumulate. And of course, I think banking on that Bitcoin could shoot up massively if Trump wins, given how positive he has been and all the Bitcoin speeches he did and so on and so forth. So I think that's what we're seeing here. What would happen if he loses? I don't know, actually, but I think that's what we're seeing in the market. Is the anticipation, Mando, you talked about it several weeks also, that we could see a run up in front of the election, and I think that's what we're seeing here. And Tesla had a fantastic, I would call it a breakout, actually, from this period of lower highs. Suddenly we broke that, and that happened now in the candle that closed on Sunday. So this is the highest closing, the first higher closing candle we've had in quite some time outside this diagonal line. So Tesla got the breakout that we kind of thought, and I'm sure it's, or at least it could be, for the same reason that people associate a Trump victory will be good for Elon Musk, and in that case it would be good for Tesla share price. That's what we're seeing in the market now.
Mando, how are you playing this?
I think Tesla's an obvious one. I think Bitcoin's an obvious one. I think Trump's most likely to win now. So I think you can probably take some more risk on things like Solana or some of the altcoins, just because number one, what we spoke about, this AI agent trend, but also that you might see talk about broader policy in the US, and I think that would be a very big bull case for a lot of different altcoins. So I wouldn't fade this. Like, I genuinely think that if Trump gets in, we could have a bit of a gold candle to break us out, and I think that's you wait for months for that sort of stuff. So yes, okay, you take some risk, but I think I do think it's probably time to just strap in.
Strap in, strap on. Oh my god, Marty. I think penultimate question for you: how are you playing this? Just heavy leverage perps, looking at liquidation levels.
I think that Trump has already won. I think all of these moves we're seeing from these large industry players and politicians and global participants are indication that the single party system has already declared the winner internally. So I think as far what I do, I'm a spot holder of Bitcoin and Solana and things like that. But open small leverage, large position perps, and expect potentially a 50% chance the market makers plunge it for a V-shaped flush to clear all the leverage. That could happen the day before the election. It could happen today. We've got 9 days left. It's going to happen pretty much in that time. So you've got a 9-day window. So you could either wait for the bottom of that flush, but the exchanges will probably not honor your trade. So set them now low leverage to accommodate that, and then ride it up and take profits along the way. But I think we're breaking the handle of the cup. I've been calling the cup and handle for 4 months. And we tested it. We went over the handle the other day. It rejected. We went over the handle today. It's just a matter of time. Usually on the 4th test, we break. When you break that handle, we run to 125,000, guys. Then probably pull back under 100, 96, consolidate there, and move up from there.
And Marty, a lot of people are asking what happened to Sui. They're very upset.
This is normal. This is how it works.
Token unlock, is that a big part of
it? $1.50. I would expect $1.
What about that 400 million apparently dumped by some VC and then some unlocks? Is that a concern for holders? What would you do here?
It's you got to have conviction. These are novel technologies. You got to have conviction. You got to put your hat on as a tech VC. You're a VC when you're trading small caps, right? It's like this. So they got to make money too. They got to pay for the development. These are radical innovations that cost money. So they got to take profits. I don't see that as a problem. I think that there's a bullish case for them to build more. So at the end of the day, either you're convicted or not. If you're convicted, you should be accumulating now under $1.60, I'd say. But I've always said accumulate under 2. So we're still in that under 2 zone. That's what you should be doing. If you play that well, you stick to those to that discipline, you'll be extremely happy. It'll consolidate a while and then shoot up to a new high.
Okay, very quick final question, very quick around the table because we've gone over an hour here. Thank you all, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe to all their links, watch on all their channels, etc. Black Swan, we are all very bullish going into the next week or so, 10 days. Anything on the horizons? We had the rockets flying. They didn't hit the oil in Iran. Oil price fell as a result after spiking a little bit in advance. Any black swans or market risks you can see on the horizon to balance this out? Mando, you first. CTO, you second. Or CTO, you go now. You had your finger up first.
It's fine. I think the obvious one here is the election. I don't think it's given, despite how it looks on the prediction market. So it's not over until it's over. And that's obvious risk. Say that the Elizabeth Warren type of opinion gets prevailing and it comes like a massive crackdown on everything that spells digital currency and so on. That would be the obvious risk that I see here.
Interesting. Very good. Mando, black swans on the horizon. Any risks you see?
The election, I think CTO is the obvious one in the next week. Maybe the yen spirals. Like they just had an election, which kind of put them in maybe a slightly weaker position. You've seen that even them selling US treasuries has not really helped. Maybe you see a bit of the yen stop spiral and people freak out. Maybe then that causes a little bit of a solve crisis. That's the only black swan in macro I see. Yeah, that's it.
Good. Marty, any fears on the horizon for you or just bullish as hell?
I think there'll be a lot of FUD. I don't think there'll be actual black swans, factual black swans, but a lot of FUD. We see the DOJ and the Tether thing. They're going to come at it around the election. You guys are right. I think we're going to see a lot of FUD. But ultimately, I think cyber warfare could be the next big black swan to me. That's what Jerome Powell said, keeps him up at night. It's the only thing. I think, war, I think, is going to turn from bombs and missiles to cyber war, specific as we get more technologically dependent. And I think a significant cyber attack on the US causing outages, over a day or so, obviously, I think would be a genuine black swan for all monetary vehicles, the stock market, crypto, everything, just from a perspective of fear and mistrust. So that to me is a potential black swan. But as I say, Armageddon is priced in right now. I don't think any of these other things are going to affect crypto. I think the use case is solidified. Politically, it's never been stronger. We've had more bull cases than ever in history. If anything, I think we're going to have white swans, guys. Can you believe I'm saying that? I think you should expect the white swans, starting with the Trump one.
And the next big thing is AI agents and crypto. Everybody keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on the intersection between crypto and AI. That is going to be huge, and that could take over the world, which could actually, in my perspective, when things develop so fast, it makes the incumbents very nervous, and then the clampdown can happen. That would be my black swan. If these crypto agents continue to spin like they are spinning right now, that's going to make the incumbents, the big tech, the TradFi world, stock markets extremely nervous. Can you imagine if there was rails into New York Stock Exchange with crypto AI agents powered by like a lot of it, bonkers. It's game over.
If you start tokenizing all these assets on chain, which is basically what could happen under Trump, right? We're talking about like easier tokenization, and you have AI agents that can trade those with essentially their own bank accounts, right? They have their own wallets. You can get to kind of crazy scenarios. I don't know if that means more regulation or what, but that is the world I think we're heading towards at breakneck speed now. I think you're going to start to see a lot of innovation start to happen in that intersection of AI. And it's interesting what you said at the start, which is like, oh, lots of those people on chain are bots. I think that term bot is going to be turned towards agent, and we were always talking about how do you get the next billion people, how do you get billions of people onto crypto? Like, you're going to see it, but they're going to be agents now. And that's really going to provide the foundations of a new bull case for crypto here.
Excellent. Very, very, very good closing point. Again,
point,
links below. Thank you, Marty. Thank you, Mando. Thank you, CT. I think we're all pretty bullish, but again, tempered. We'll watch the data very carefully. And by the way, October 5th, do we have a DCA before the election? I'm really bad at calendars. Let me see.
31 days, so 3 days, 4th. It's going to be on the 4th.
Yeah, we have one DCA before the election. That's when we will crunch all the numbers and place our bets, whether we go long or short or perp like degens.
That's going to be a big show, guys. That's going to be a big show. Get ready for next week.
And Mando's moderating too. Boom. On the spot.
All right, get ready, guys.
Have a great week. Be safe out there. Thank you, CTO. Thank you, Marty. Thank you, Mando.
Thanks, CTO. Thanks, Amanda, for having me. Everyone out there, stay safe.
Catch you later.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.